listening to the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network with your host, Marc Henry.
It's that time of year where you're checking your list. Have you been naughty? Have you been nice? Well, for Texas high school football, if you've been nice, you're just a game away from the state title game in Arlington. We're going to talk about that and more right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. With your host, I am Marc Henry right here on the Lone Star Gridiron Network. H-Town is going down. You know what time of year it is, man. We are just about wrapping this season up, man. It's been crazy, but we got some teams to talk about that could be going to state. The Final Four. The Final Four teams in each division, man. We're going to talk about it right here. H-Town is going up, man. We got some guys. We got some coaches. We got some fan bases. We got some communities that could be punching their ticket after this weekend. But we'll take a small break right here on the TCG, and we'll be right back, and we'll dive right into the Final Four. Who's going to state? We'll talk about that and more right here on the Third Coast Gridiron.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
Let's talk about last week. Of course, we had some rematches. Summer Creek and C.E. King. Well, C.E. King gets the better of them and moves on 24-21 in a battle over at Thorne Stadium. Deion Sims was phenomenal. Rushed for 229 yards. But I think Timothy Potts is the factor that maybe people may not be talking about. His ability to get that offense where they need to be, to make timely throws, to also use his legs to make plays. I think this is the reason that C.E. King's kind of over that threshold now, and they're one game away from state. We'll talk about their big game just in a little bit. But this is a battle-tested team. 2 teams left out of 23-6A. Shows that they're one of the best districts in the H. That includes North Shore. Now, Summer Creek was the last to get ousted. Of course, they had to go into their district foe in rival C.E. King. These guys have battled the last 4 years, meeting in the playoffs, meeting in district. But, we talked about Deion Sims, who had 3 tutties, also a couple of catches as well. He's rushed for over 1,600 yards and 4,000 all-purpose yards for his career. He's headed to Rice. But the Panthers defense, they got 8 sacks with Dominic Toulon and Marion Smith, who also had 2. Toulon had 10 sacks in 4 playoff games. Edmond as well had an interception. They'll take on Vandergrift, who'll be standing in their way to get to H-Town, to get to Jerry World, out of H-Town. You know what I'm saying? So we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But I think that, that shows what the staying power is in that district. You know what I'm saying? 23-6A, which has been a powerhouse district for, probably a decade now. With North Shore being, the team that's been representing 23-6A state for a number of years. And I think they have a chance to go back. Caleb Maryland was phenomenal. They got a big 46-29 victory over a very good Dickinson team who came into this game undefeated. But Maryland had 244 yards, 3 tutties, rushed for 52 yards, and 2 more scores on the ground. I mean, this is a reason that this guy's, one of the better players in the state. Heavily recruited guy. He's really taken off, everybody talked about that loss to Summer Creek at the end of the year. But sometimes you have to hit the reset button. You have to refocus. You have to, get your ship righted, get it going in the right direction. Coach Willie Gadsden's been here and done that. These guys are one step away from another state title. They hadn't been since 2021. But, this is what you look for in a steady Eddie type of team, a team that's been right at the cusp of doing this, but standing in their way, Lake Travis. And we'll talk about that before we get out of here today. But I just think that you have to look at what the Mustangs bring to the table as a program, not just a team. It's a program. It's a mindset. It's a thing where they know that every time they step on the field, they expect to win. They don't think they're going to win. They're going to expect to win. It's the mindset of that program. And shout out to my guy, Landon Williams-Callis over at Randall High School, Gatorade Player of the Year for the state of Texas as a junior. Had a big game and a big win over Iowa College. This was the fourth time they met in 2 years. This is one of those games that we talked about last week. If you listen to the show, we knew it was going to come down to a couple of plays, but Williams Callis has just been playing at a high level. Had a chance to see him on a couple of occasions already this year. I really think that he's really, taking a next step in his overall game. His explosiveness, his ability, when he hits that second level, it's almost like lights out. You can go ahead and let the fat lady sing. This guy's going to hit the touchdown, hit his head on the goalpost. You know what I'm saying? So I think that this is a big matchup, and we'll talk about their matchup with Barney here towards the end of the show. Willis, their great season came to an end. They lost to DeSoto 60-40. Listen, if you didn't, I need you to go and look up Sarad Baker for DeSoto. He's an outstanding running back, 384 yards, 7 touchdowns. Of course, Willis battled back. Frazier had a good game. Scoop Martin had a good game, the tight end, and Jermaine Bishops was on fire on both sides of the ball. But DeSoto had a strong performance for one of the best backs in the state, and he's a junior. He's coming back. But if you hadn't seen Sarad Baker play, you need to check him out. I'm telling you right now, he's the reason that they're battling. DeSoto's going to battle South Lake Carroll this week. But I think that. Back to Willis, they had a great season. Lincoln Frazier is going to be a guy that you need to know about. He's got 4-star quarterback written all over him. Starting as a freshman, throwing for over 4,000 yards, in a season, over 40 touchdowns. This guy's on his way to being that next level quarterback, and he's got 3 more years to do it. Down in Port Arthur, man, the Memorial got a big victory over Barbers Hill. I really like this PA Memorial team. Tank Kings is one of their leaders defensively. Got Monte Martin on the offensive side. The Titans are 1 game away. They're 1 game away from going to state. And that's what you got to look for. You know what I'm saying? I think, they're battle tested. They had a really, really, really good season so far. They're undefeated. They were one of the top 10 teams or top 5 teams in the state when the rankings were out during the season. So they're 1 step away. And I think they have all the tools to make it there. You know what I'm saying? But I think that, this is a team that's really, really talented, well coached, and they got the team to do it. But they're 1 step away. We got 1 more week. The finals are here, the semifinals in the state. And we're going to talk about some of these games. We'll take a small break. We're going to break down some of these games here in the H. Here on TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. I am your host, Marc Henry. We'll be right back, and we'll talk about some of these games as everybody wants to punch their ticket to Jerry World.
Hey, do you need topsoil, fill dirt, sand, mulch, gravel, limestone, you name it? Do you need that delivered and or spread? Texas Tree Cycle in Victoria has you covered for residential and commercial projects, big or small. These guys do it all. They do some amazing work. You can call them at 361-237-8006 for a free estimate. That's Texas Tree Cycle, bringing quality materials to your yard.
Big games this week is everybody's making their push to make it a state. You can't get any bigger than the Lake Travis North Shore game. This is a big game. Lake Travis comes in undefeated. North Shore, of course, 2 losses, 1 to South Oak Cliff and 1 to Summer Creek at the end of the year. I think that North Shore feels like they can score at will. That offense is humming. They're averaging 45 points per game during the playoffs, and they've won all of their games by more than 17 points. I think this is the big thing, is they got to score at will. Now, this Lake Travis team is very, very good. They got a couple of defensive ends that are going to play Power 4 football. They got a quarterback in Luke McBride who's passed for 36 touchdowns. Big lefty. He can sling it. I kind of had a chance to see them play against San Antonio Johnson. And they were down early, 13-0. But they withstood that. They're a sound team with great discipline. They play very physical on the defensive end. And I think that this is going to be a test for North Shore, especially in the trenches. If they can control the trenches like they've been doing in the playoffs, we'll see them headed to Arlington next week. And the Cavaliers, they don't give up that many points. They've given up on a little bit under 12 points per game in the playoffs. They took care of business against Johnson 27-19 to advance to this round. Can they withstand the pressure that North Shore is going to put on them offensively with Caleb Maryland, his ability to make plays in and out the pocket? He's a dual threat, and I think he's the key. If the Cavaliers can do something that they need to do, that's contain Caleb Maryland. And it starts there. They got some big time wideouts. Coach Willie Gaston really has the defense playing very well for those guys. I think that's going to be the difference in the game. This North Shore, I had a chance to see them against South Oak Cliff, and I tried to see a chance to see them against Atascocita, and they played very, very well. And that secondary is what I'm talking about. They've grown up on the back end. They've had a chance to mature. They've had a chance to get themselves right. And they got a chance to go back to Jerry. If I'm leaning that way. You know what I'm saying? And I think, that sets them up on the other end, the Allen Duncanville matchup. I had a chance to see Duncanville against Waxahachie last week, and it was a great game. Duncanville snuck out of there with one because Waxahachie pushed them. Allen beat a very good North Crowley team who was defending 6AD1 state champs last year. Physical. So whichever team comes out on the other side from this Lake Travis North Shore matchup, they got to face either one of these teams are very physical in Duncanville and Allen. Had a chance to see both of them this year, Allen against Prosper and Allen against North Crowley. So, that other side of the bracket is going to be physical too. So whoever comes out of this matchup with North Shore and Lake Travis better get ready and buckle their chin straps up when they make it to Jerrywell, because it's going to be a physical contest. But, if I'm leaning, I like what North Shore brings to the table. Caleb Maryland in the playoffs has been phenomenal. C. King, Vandergrift. Now, Vandergrift was a state champion 6AD2 last year, beat a very good South Lake Carroll team. Like we talked about, Timothy Potts, I think is going to be the X factor in this game. Now, Vandergrift has a great quarterback in Miles Tedecki, who took them to a state championship last year. This will be over in Waco, 6 o'clock at McLean Stadium. C. King has been phenomenal. Their defense has really stepped up in the playoffs, not allowing more than about 10 points a game, a little less than 10 points. But they've been scoring almost 50 points a game, a little over 51 points a game. Their offense is in another zone, another stratosphere right now. But Tedecki is one of those quarterbacks. And listen, he can get it done with his legs or his arm. And Vandergrift's offensive line is one of the best in the state that maybe people don't talk about. In his career, Tedecki's thrown for over 63 touchdowns. They are battle tested. But I like C. King because they don't know that they haven't been here before. You know what I'm saying? This is their first time getting this far. They're one game away from state. They've been battle tested. They played North Shore. They played they played Summer Creek. They played Atascocita in a very, very tough district. This is a game that you definitely want to keep your eyes on. Now, the other semifinal matchup, South Lake Carroll and DeSoto, is going to be one of those, games for the ages. I think it's going to be, a game where it's going to be a lot of points scored. We talked about Sherrod Baker, the junior running back, but they also, for DeSoto, they also have USC signing in Ethan Feaster, Antron Edmondson as well. DeSoto's defense is playing well, and they played very, very good against Willis last week. But South Lake Carroll's been wire to wire the number one team in 6A. Brock Boyd, Blake Gunter, Brody Knowles. This is probably several of, or if not the best trio of receivers in the state of Texas. That defense is playing very well. They got a coach, one of the best coaches in the state, in Riley Dodge. This will be in Waco. This will be up north. The other game's in Waco, but this will be up north in the Dallas area, and you got to know this is going to be some big time football play. But on the other side, waiting, see King Vandergrift, and Vandergrift took down South Lake Carroll last year, who returned all these guys. So if anybody can do it, it's Vandergrift. But if I'm leaning, I hate to say it, I think the battle tested Vandergrift team might have the edge just because they've been there. But C. King's one of those teams that can knock them off. And if that offense behind Timothy Potts gets rolling early, Vandergrift's in trouble. And I think that's the big thing you got to look at, is they got to get off to a fast start. Now, 5AD2, of course, the Randall Lions are back. They're one game away from state. They're the state champions in 5AD2. They've been the best team in the state the entire year. They take on Bernie, who's 13-1. But this Randall offense is taking another step in the in the playoffs offensively. They're coming off a 45-35 victory over Iowa Colony. They've scored 804 points through 14 games. This is an offense that can get it done. Now, we know Gatorade Player of the Year, we just got to talking about it, Landon Williams-Callis. He's rushed for 9 out of 10 yards and 16 touchdowns in the playoffs in 4 games, averaging over 227 yards a game and well over 10 yards a carry. Bernie's got their hands full. We've been talking about Landon Williams-Callis as one of the top running backs in the country, not just in the state of Texas. You know what I'm saying? For our all intents and purposes, he's the number one in the country. You know what I'm saying? I know they got some other guys that they, depends on what rankings or what, who you're looking at. Rankings are just someone's opinion. But until you change that opinion, you see this guy in person, this is what it is. He's lights out. But I think that Coach Randall has these guys playing at a high level. The defense is playing well also. But, Bernie, they're not there for, they're not there for a reason. You know what I'm saying? But I think that this is a game team. The Greyhounds have won 13 straight. They got a 56-49 win over Alamo Heights to get to this point. They have one of the top junior quarterbacks in Grant Sweeney, who had 491 yards total and 7 touchdowns, 4 rushing and 3 passing. I think that this could be a sneaky game. He's passed for over 4,000 yards and rushed for over 1,000 and 56 total touchdowns. This is not going to be an easy game, but nobody has been able to stop Williams-Callis. That's the mission for Barney if they want to make it to the next level. They've been sneaky good. And you got to look at them as a true contender. Now, shout out to East Bernard, man. They got a big matchup with Newton coming out of East Texas, man. This is a big game. This is 3AD2. They got a chance to knock off one of the best teams definitely coming in the state of Texas and Newton. They've been rolling. But, East Bernard, it's about 50 miles outside of the H, but this is their first time back in the state semifinals since 2019, and they're 1 game away from state. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a good game.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. That's lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
But you got to look at Newton as one of those teams, man. They've won 13 straight since they lost the opener to West Orange Stark, who, by the way, is in the playoffs as well. And they just been killing people, man. They've outscored their opponents by 60, 68, 33, and 46. And Kendra Porter is a top running back in the junior class in the state of Texas. He's rushed for 231 yards and 4 tutties in a 66-20 win over ARP. He's rushed for over 1,600 yards and 26 touchdowns. This is a big game. But Newton's one of those teams that's been around and been there and done that. They've been in the state championships before. And I think that, this is a big game. Shout out to East Bernard, man. 10-4 on the season, but they have the chance to punch their ticket to Jerry World, man. But, man, I'm telling you, man, I can't wait. Man, I'm going up to Jerry World next week, man, to take a look at all of this stuff for the state championship, man. It's what we do right here at the TCG. But, man, we're going to be back at you next week, get you ready for the state title games in Arlington, right here on the TCG, man. Follow us on Twitter at Third Gridiron. as well as Marc Henry 44 on the Mark Sports. And definitely tap in with Top Texas Prospects or TXTP Show on Instagram, on Twitter, and Facebook. The Lone Star Gridiron Network, man. The authority for high school football in the state of Texas. This is the Third Coast Gridiron. We'll holler at you next week.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. That's lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.